All right. So my next guest, I just hung out with him for like a week.
Yep.
Now I get a week of break, and then I see him for another week. So we're recording this between BoucherCon and the NINC conferences, and this is really, this is the only time we get to see each other.
It really is, isn't it? Yeah. We just kind of like only get like a couple of weeks of the year and then that's it. So,
Right. And then we'll talk to each other online, but other than that, not really, not that much.
mm-mm. No.
So let's jump right into it, Doug. We I like to really just talk about thrillers and stuff like that. So how long have you actually been? How long have you been writing? But then how long have you gotten serious enough where you've published and been successful selling books?
Uh-huh. I have been writing like my entire life. Like I was always writing. Always that was the one thing I wanted to be when I was like 5. Is I wanted to write books. And as a kid, like I wrote like a whole collection of stories when I was in 5th grade about a frog. It was kind of adventuresome. I did all sorts of short stories in high school. But it really wasn't until I published my first, and I'd written a book from high school. After high school, in college, I don't remember really when I started it, but I wrote this one book and I rewrote it and I rewrote it like, 7 times. And it just sat on my computer until about 2011 when I got my first Kindle and I started reading all these other books that are on there. And I'm like, some of these people, these books are just like, they're not that great. So if they're not that great, I could probably put mine on there because it's not that great. And so in 2011, I started kind of cracking into the whole Kindle KDP and how to publish into that, and kind of went from there. Published about 6 books over the next 9 years, and then in 2020, pre-pandemic, I decided I was going to just quit my job and focus at least 1 to 2 years on trying to make a career out of writing. My wife was kind enough to like offer to support me and keep me, fed. And then, which happened at the right time because 2 months after I quit, then the entire world shut down. So stuck at home anyway. So I was like, well, might as well just keep at it. And so kind of went from there.
So did the pandemic help you with the focus of the writing, or was it
I,
really
I
like?
think it was probably didn't help me because it was probably tangential. I think it was kind of like it, I was planning to do it anyway. I was already planning to focus my time. Only I wasn't planning on everybody being home with me, so that kind of changed a little bit. But because I was still fresh into like, hey, I came off this job, I didn't have to do anything for my day job at this point because I was out. So I did focus pretty hard on writing and finishing up the one series I was working on. I did have a sci-fi series that I finished up, and then I created my new series, which at the time is now my main series, which is the Chase Gordon Tropical Thriller series. And so I did have a good, solid opportunity to kind of really work on that and make it a really great book, which I thought was good for launching a new series and kind of just jumping into that. So
So you say tropical authors. Both of us are part of the tropical
we
authors.
are.
So how did you get involved in that to begin with?
Well, I had written two of my books, and I was following I see the tropical authors, a couple of the pages. I know our good friend Don Rich had a coastal writers group, and at the time I didn't know Don, but I did know Dave Behrens, and Dave and I'd hung out a couple of times, and so I knew he was in the group, and I kind of reached out to him and said, "Hey, I'm kind of curious how I can be a part of this." And I don't know what Dave did, but I think he reached out to some of the other people, and pretty soon they extended an invitation, and I was like, absolutely, I jumped on it, and it was a huge change for me there. So it actually coincided with it was I think it was probably middle of 2021. And at that point, I was kind of like the pandemic was kind of winding down. I was at a point where I was like, okay, this isn't quite taken off yet. I might have to think about getting a bartending job. Um, and that's about the time I got added into the tropical author group, and I picked up my first book club at the same like almost within the same month. And when I did that, I suddenly was like, oh, I see some light all of a sudden at the end of the tunnel there. So I do. I mean, I do credit the Tropical Authors being it's such a great niche group. We have such a great group of guys in there that it's kind of nice to be able to share those readers with other people, and finding that niche really made a difference for me.
Yeah, I jumped in when I saw it on Facebook. People talking about it. I'm like, well, I fit in that. And then when I looked,
Oh,
oh, Nick Sullivan. I had just done a book signing with him maybe 2 3 months before. So I sent him a message, and I'm like, what will it take to what will it take to get in this thing? And we just talked, and then I jumped right in, which was great. And for me, it was a good push to go. You know what? I want to do more. I'm writing crime thrillers, but now I want to do more that fit into this niche of what everyone
right.
else is doing. You know, I'm not a scuba diver. I'm not. I don't own a boat. I don't own a plane. I don't have. So for me to be able to pick all your brains when I'm writing those types of scenes, the real life stuff. That was a huge help for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is because there's always we have people in there who have boats. We have people who've been in the military and done all sorts of things, and a lot of people up and down the coast of Florida into the Keys that know different things about different about those kind of things. So they're great resources for sure. So, and then we have Nick Harvey, and I don't know what to do with him. So,
I don't know if you noticed. I'm wearing my Nick Harvey shirt.
oh, I see it. Yeah.
I was like, I gotta take a shower. What should I put? Oh, I gotta put on a Nick Harvey shirt.
Nick Harvey shirt. Yeah.
Of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. It's nice. I don't even have a Nick Harvey. I should buy one of those from him.
That'd be nice. So, how did you and Nick hook up, doing more than just being
So
authors?
honestly, let's see, a few years ago, was down in Key Largo towards the end of the pandemic, and I had reached out. Obviously, knew him online. Reached out and just said, "Hey, we're going to be in here. You guys, you want to grab lunch?" And so met up with him and his lovely wife Cheryl. And so we kind of outside. That was the first time we really met, and then we started talking more and more. We collaborated on a few things. As you know, we after Nink a few years ago, we sat down and decided we wanted to do a podcast. It seemed like a good chance to, get to talk, like you said earlier, we don't get to see each other on a regular basis. And, I don't have a lot of author friends in Memphis, certainly not any tropical author friends. So it's kind of nice to connect on a regular basis with somebody. And we were already chatting on a regular basis anyway. So we're like, hey, let's just start recording these. And that kind of grew into our Two Authors podcast. And then from that, we also were like, well, we got to pay for this podcast because like most people don't realize there's a little bit of money to go into hosting these kind of things. And we didn't want to just shell it out like that. That's not a good business sense. So we decided we were going to do a collaboration together. And the Tropical Authors had already done a couple of them with Timeless and Graceless. And so we just kind of did one together. We came up with this idea and we used those books to float the podcast for a little bit, and they made some good money on the side too. So and since then we've added some sponsorships, so that's kind of alleviated that. But we still kind of write those books and have a good time. And Nick and I have a really good relationship. We're kind of vastly different, and that he's a little more attention to detail, and I'm more of a fly by the seat of my pants kind of a guy. So kind of works out. We'll often joke he's like we're spouses to some extent. So because we do kind of argue about some things every now and again, but we kind of come back around every time, and it works out that we fill in the gaps what the other one needs. So
how is it writing? Is it at this point compared to the beginning when you two first sat down and said, here's let's write something about it? I mean, how has that changed?
So it's kind of more of a competition to some extent. Like the way we'll write it is we have a series with two characters and we each write one of the characters. There are siblings that have never met before, and she was raised in England, so he gets the English character, and my guy was raised in Florida. I take him, and we just kind of each write and we back and forth it. So it's also, we joke it's like a little bit like tossing a ball. Like, I'll write a chapter, I'll get it to the point. Now we plan it out, so we're not doing it completely. We're not completely plotting the whole thing, but we do at least plot enough that we know where we're going to do. We're not surprising the other with something, I'm not dropping in, his character into the ocean with a shark without him knowing ahead of time. But we do kind of find that we'll try to ramp each other up so that like, hey, I try to write really amazing action scene and get it right to the point and then pass it to him. So he's then got to carry that still a little bit. And it works really well with us. And you get something and he'll send something back and like, dang, this is really good. I've got to at least write that well for my chapter as well. So, so it kind of helps us a little bit that way.
Yeah. And I agree, because I've written with a couple people that I would read their chapter and I'd be like, oh man, like I can't. This isn't like just a bridge chapter. Phone it in. Like I have.
Right. Yeah.
And then you get excited when they come back to you and they're like, I didn't see that coming, or
right. Yeah.
or something. Then you feel like that other author is your first reader.
Yep.
on this stuff.
It very much is, and like sometimes you're like, I'll send him a message, or he'll send me one back. Wow, that was that was great what you just did there. And that's the stuff that kind of fits into when you do the outline, it's 3 sentences, so you got to take that 3 sentences and blow it to 2,000, 2,500 words. Right. There's a lot that can happen in there that you're not planning for, and sometimes I'll be writing along and be like, oh man, let's do this, and I'll sometimes warn him, and sometimes I'll pass it along just to get his feedback on it right away. So,
right.
And sometimes he'll respond like my wife does, and just like, really, because I'll tend to push some things a little bit as far as the realism,
right.
And I might jump a chasm with a car like the Dukes of Hazzard if I could, and he'll be like, that's not going to work that way.
That's funny. As an aside, I had a great time talking to your wife so much.
Yes, she said the exact same thing, and she said that she goes, man, I really like talking to Shelly and you, and I was like, yeah, they're pretty awesome. So my wife's pretty cool. I like her. She's pretty nice.
So you should keep her.
In
such a big group at NINC that we're really just kind of having dinner. It's that hour or so before the rest of us get back to work, and all the spouses go off and lay on the beach and whatever. So
right, yeah, and your wife and my wife both, they're just there for the vacation for the most part now.
Oh yeah, so, literally at this point, yeah. So for you, as right now, once you've written so many tropical books now, is there either on paper or in your head, is there a formula? Do you know the beats? Do you know the word count? Do you know the chapter count? Do you have that in mind?
So for my Chase series, definitely, I mean, most of my word count fits around 65 to 70,000 words for that series, which falls, and as I said, most of my chapters fall around 2,000 words. I like shorter chapters, not real short, but short, very action oriented chapters, so that everything, it's always about turning the pages. I want everybody to be like, oh, what's happening next, and not able to put that book down. So to some extent, yeah, I've got a formula. The book I'm writing now is a little bit of a break from the regular formula, as I'm trying to kind of do a little bit different, delve into a little bit more of Chase's past. But I'm at book 15, so I want to kind of start giving a little more, in depth, and build something for the readers that's kind of a little bit different.
Is there, in your mind, is there an end to the series, or is it just I'm going to keep running till I run out of ideas?
I don't see there being an end to the series. It's a very pop, and I reference it as it's like Jack Reacher on a boat. Like it's just an action series. It doesn't have a lot of arc, so I can just keep dropping him in someplace new, and his character, while it has, it does have some arc, but for the most part, I want each book to feel like a standalone book, so that if you pick up in the middle of it, you can get very quickly what the gist of it is, and there's not a lot of tie over. There are a couple of books that do have a little bit. After you write 15 of them, sometimes you got to go, oh, I need to close out a plot point. But overall, you should be able to pick up most any book and just go, okay, let me just read it, and it's great. And so I think that can just keep carrying it on until it's making money, or I don't think I'll ever get bored of it. And there are other books that I want to write. So I have added new series, and I'll keep adding other, because I've got so many ideas. So I don't see running out of those anytime soon.
Right. So doing this now full time, what's one of the things that you screwed up in the beginning, and what's one of the things that you feel like you got lucky doing it, and that's why you're actually selling books?
I think at the beginning, I didn't realize the importance of of making the writing so important. I mean, at the time I was a full-time job, I had kids, life often got in the way, and I was only doing maybe a book a year. And for an indie, a book a year isn't going to get you very far. You want to kind of start building it up. And that's not everybody. There are plenty of people who do a book a year, but in some respect, I learned the lesson that the best thing to sell the next book or the book that I'm writing now is to write the next book. And that wasn't something I learned until about 5 books in. So as to what I'm like doing now, I think that's just it. Is I've learned to kind of focus my writing, focus my attention on making sure that the writing is important. It's something I try to do every day, unless I'm at BoucherCon with you and I haven't written in a week. But otherwise, yes, I try to focus on getting the word count. This year, I've so far put out 7 books this year, so it's been pretty close to a book a month. That's been a little too much, so I probably won't do that many next year because I've still got at least 3 more before the end of the year. So I'll end up putting about 10 of them out this year, which probably not much compared to your word count, but that was a lot for me. So
I think I'm releasing like 10, and then a bunch of anthologies.
And a bunch of anthologies, yeah.
Sure, I do a lot of short stories too.
I've added short stories this year as well. I added up because I've started a Patreon, so I've been doing a short story a month in my Chase Gordon world, with the intention of my Patreon supporters can get that short story now, but then next year I might take those, compile them together, and create some anthologies, and that's going to be something that can be sold down the road on Amazon and Kindle. So
because if you put a collection of those together, that's another. Yeah. Is there a schedule for your releases, or is it just when I get to it?
Usually I've got a schedule in my head, but I move it around a lot. That's where I am not a stickler about some things. So if I get to an end of a book and I'm like, I really want to jump to this one, and obviously like my Chase series is my bestseller, so I always like to keep up with him and keep him going pretty hard. My other 2 series, well, I've got multiple series, but the other 2 I write by myself is my J. Delp series, which was a spinoff of the Chase series, and it's more of a police procedural. Still set on the coast. It's actually set in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, so it's on the coast of Mississippi. But it's only got 2 books in, but it's more of a police procedural. And then I've got another one that's kind of a spy thriller, and that one I definitely think that one will be a little more of probably 5 books, and then that might be it for it, or at least be it for a while. We'll see. I'm going to close it out and decide from there how I'm going to keep going with it.
And also, this is a business, so
it is. You got to make sure.
So
yeah. So it's like, if it's not selling, I got to decide, is that worth it? Is it something I want to keep putting my energy into when I can put it into one that I know is selling? So
that's probably my worst fault
when
I started writing so many different series and so many different books, and I kept trying to push the ones that were just they weren't hitting with titles.
For sure. My first series, really that probably was my biggest mistake is that I held on to that first series for 6 books, went after 3, and I saw it wasn't working. I should have bailed, but that was the first book I ever wrote. It was I thought I held that character a little too close to my heart.
Right.
I decided that, I could make it work. I could make it work because to me it was a good story, but it wasn't hitting with the readers. And so, now as you look back on it, as you grow, I joke all the time. I was like, yeah, those books are still out there. By all means, buy them. Just don't read them, because they're not as good. By the 6th one, I actually thought the 6th one was a really good one. But when those first entry points there's a lot of learning there, and I've grown a lot as a writer since then.
Yeah. All right, couple more questions.
Sure.
So, who are 2 or 3 thriller authors that really inspired you to write what you're writing?
Okay. I have always been a huge mystery thriller fan. Grew up as a kid reading the 3 Investigators, which was like the Alfred Hitchcock and the 3 Investigators. They were kind of dated. It wasn't ever a Hardy Boy fan, but those were the ones I read. And I moved into that. By the time I was in the middle school, I was reading some really hardcore mysteries, more like the Dashiell Hammett and the Philip Marlowe. But it was really when I got around to meeting John McDonald and Robert Parker that I was like, okay, this is really what I want to do. Travis McGee and Spencer were two of these characters that you're like, wow, they're just cool characters. They're just the kind of characters I want to read about. They're the kind of characters I want to be. So I kind of just ate them up, and anything that was like them, whether it was Robert Cray or some of the Bosch, those kind of things were big, and they just kind of grew with them. But it was really Trav and Spencer that really got me early on.
Yeah. So who are some of the thriller authors that are writing today that more people should know about?
Oh, wow. Well, he was with us this week, and I'm reading one of his books now, but S.A. Cosby by far has been just blown me away. Everything he writes is amazing. If you're from the South or curious about this, he really nails the perspective of what it's like to live in the South. And while I would know as far as an African American, he really nails that culture down, I think. I really enjoy Mark Graney, the Gray Man series, and Greg Hurwitz's Orphan X series. They're both write action, probably better than most anybody out there right now. And so I do enjoy those a lot. So
yeah, those are some must reads.
Yes.
All right, now plug the podcast.
Oh yes, we have the Nick Harvey and I. We host the Two Authors podcast. It's available everywhere. We've got some great guests. We focus a lot on trying to help people who are emerging authors or established authors. Just kind of see what success is like. See some of the different things you can do. Basically, don't make the same mistakes we make. So we talk a lot about some of the stuff we do. And we also try to focus on the fact that everyone's journey is a little bit different. So, you and I are pretty close. We both write thrillers, but if if one of us decided to break off and write romance, we'd kind of have to change gears on how we do it. Mostly from the marketing aspect, although my writing romance would be terrible. So, but it's definitely, it's a fun podcast. We've had you on, we've had some recent people on, Joanna Penn was just on with us. So it's a lot of fun. And if you enjoy listening to two guys who just, shoot the shit for the most part, then that's really what we do.
Yeah. You guys definitely have a lot of fun when you're doing it. I think
yes.
that's a big part of it. It's not very, the structure is not, let's make ourselves look good and let's ask questions of, that we have this list of questions and we're going to ignore the guest answers. It's a conversation, which I think is great.
Yeah, it's mostly a conversation. I think that's we have questions obviously to keep because, as sometimes you'll get a guest who you may have to prod a little bit to get them to go. But it's if you just treat it like a conversation, it's amazing. And sometimes you just get wrapped up. We've had a couple of them where we're like pushing 40 minutes and we're like, man, I could just keep talking to this person for hours, but we've got to kind of wrap it up. Yep. So it's a lot of fun, and we'll bring them back. We've had a couple of guests we brought back that were a lot. We just brought Becca Symes back, and if you don't know her, she does the strengths and stuff, and she got a chance to. It'll actually come out next week, I think, while we're at NEEK. But she came back and analyzed me, so I got to put myself out on the chopping block for her to kind of just eat up, and It was a lot of fun. I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I don't mind being the butt of anybody's jokes. So
yeah, oh, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Doug. I guess I'll see you. I'll
see you next week. Yeah.
Well,
thanks so much.
We'll do this again.
Absolutely.